Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to June 2021. We made it. We are over pandemic and everything, and the world is beautiful. And from the International Space Shuttle, I am bringing to you friends from around the world. This month, we have Stuart Young and a good friend that is gonna, I don't know, all those drawings behind. He's amazing at capturing ideas and drawings, those things. I have learned so many things from him, not just for drawing, but even how to think and how to understand customers and build something based on customers' feedback and start with a product thinking like that. So I am very, very happy to invite. Oh, and I should probably show this. I'm very happy to have Stuart today joining us and sharing a little bit of his wisdom, experience, fun, jokes, everything that he brings very well encapsulated in one. So as well as welcome new friends and welcome friends that have been with us for a long time. Happy to see you all joining us. And Stuart, I'm just gonna bring you on stage.
You
Welcome.
picked me up. Before the recording, I tried to tell everyone about a nursery rhyme from Banbury. It didn't go down well, so I'll say that my nursery rhymes are low. Fun may be at the top. Humour is questionable, and the rest of it is probably lower down the list. But I'll do my best to. But thanks for that. This is the moment where I will share my iPad. Other tablets are available.
We have already a question.
Oh, a question. Go forth with the question.
Stuart, I missed the introduction with that nursery rhyme. Would that involve Banbury Cross at all?
Well, it would indeed. The most famous nursery rhyme that is world known. And it's, in fact, it's so important that it probably needs its own meetup session. So I'm going to have to move on. But, so, welcome. I think I did a talk like this for Experience Agile, which is where Adi, I think I've met quite a few times with Adita and Cheesy, who's here. We usually go back there. We go back there to share infinite wisdom, but really to share a beer in some rooftop bar. But nonetheless, it's always nice to come up with a grand title. So this is all around continuous innovation and a few other things that we'll be talking about. But really, it's really interesting. The first time I ran this, it was really around. It was before the time of COVID, and it's really interesting that when we talk about the world that we're living in and this sort of this sort of VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, this stuff couldn't be more fitting. So this whole talk is very interactive. It would be absolutely great to hear from all of you. Lots of opportunities to share information in chat and go forth. And listen, the way I pitch this is me. As well as all those things there, I'm a lifelong learner and I choose to share my learning along the way. So I don't say that I know everything. In fact, some interesting talks and suggestions of how my thoughts have changed over time with good guidance from people like Cheesy. So there's always opportunities for positive conflict. So let's hope we get some of that today as well. So yeah, this is me, Stuart Young from famous Banbury. I'm passionate about all things visual thinking, and I think all I'll say about that is it's not about lovely pictures and framing lovely artwork. It's really about the process over art. It's really about communication over decoration, and it's really about sort of helping people to create conditions where they can generate ideas and solve problems. So we'll talk a little bit more about visual thinking later. A grand way to say that I'm shackled to a drawing board at many conferences is that I'm a business visualizer. You could call me a drawer, or Rob calls me many other things, my compadre here, but a business visualizer sounds very grand. So it really depends on how much you want to pay me. Agile enthusiast, design thinker, all these jargon, all the buzzwords. We'll talk a bit more about that as well. global speaker. Well, everyone's global now, global today. And I guess the most important thing is I'm sort of very much empathy driven and love storytelling. And I guess one of my key passions is product innovation and product ownership. And I see that role as a role that really does need to really focus on storytelling. You know, bringing customers closer to the developers or a well balanced team, as well as bringing stakeholders on an engaging journey. So that's me. And I've got nothing else to say there. One thing I will say is that this is all about how we can survive in an uncertain world. And really, the focus is diversity of thought, right? That's the spoiler here. And another thing here is, what is innovation? And that is why, a little wave to my friend Rob Hill here, I totally embrace teamwork. And I think that's probably one of the most important things to me when anyone asks me, what do you love about agility, is working with a well-balanced team. There's so many things that we can do together collaboratively. Rob assisted with shaping this. And so if you really like it, it was mostly me that did this. If you think this is the worst thing you've ever seen, then just Rob did everything. That's how this is going to roll. So here we go. So the key points really is understanding how to adopt an innovation mindset. We often talk about an agile mindset, and we've probably heard that a lot, and we can talk about doing and being agile. But I want to talk a lot more about a sort of having an innovation mindset. I think I might just tick rather than so you can see them. Learning how to apply methods of design thinking and visual thinking to gain customer insight, and unearth problems and validate design ideas. There are many ways in which we can do this. It's just that there's two things that I'd like to call out. I'm also going to sort of try to de-jargon this, maybe move away from using the word design thinking and agile and just think of ways of working in order to do the right thing. So maybe we should have a swear box for the amount of times I use those words. And understanding how to balance discovery and delivery work whilst keeping the product DNA at the core. Again, many words there being thrown in, but as you'll see, we talk a lot in this. I say we, me and Rob, I'll throw him in, around this sort of continuous cycle of innovation. And I think frameworks really help you to conceptualize your ideas. And that's what we've done. We've kind of come up with a framework that helps you to think about the sorts of tools and things that you should be considering throughout the fruition of a product life cycle. So that's kind of what we've done. And Rob, if you would be so kind as to share that in Zoom, that would be wonderful. And we'll go from there.
I am trying, so bear with me. He's not letting me share it, but I'll keep going.
Oh, I can.
By the end.
Yeah, carry on. Well, it's fine. It's fine. So this is what we've created, and you're more than welcome to use it or trial it or play with it. You don't actually need to make use of it right now. And I think I've shared it with Ardita as well, so you can get it afterwards. But anyway, it's just a framework. A framework's great for converging on ideas, and this is sort of a place that you can do that. And it's Creative Commons, so hey, give it a go. It makes some improvements and share it with the global community. Enough of me. Let's get into this and make it a bit more interactive. Do you like that little robot there, Ardy?
Who is that?
I don't know. It's just a little robot.
I have been called R2D2 before, so I don't know anything about robots.
Maybe we could maybe add some glasses or something. Okay, so in chat, what do you think are the main drivers of innovation? Please share in chat. Yeah, COVID. Changing customer needs, I love. To be cool. Yeah, it sounds cool, doesn't it? If you say to people, I do innovation, I mean, it does sound pretty cool, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Safety to fail, laziness, creativity. Love it. Safety to fail. Love that, Cheesy. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's no, by the way, there's no wrong answers here. Just suggestions. Yeah, competition. Great, 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 great. Yeah. Diversity of thought. Beautiful. All of the above. So I can see a few people here from New York. I say a few, one, but there may be more. I don't know. But before this weird thing called COVID, I was emceeing at the Business Agility Conference, and so what was it, March 2020, and the world, ironically, I'd created this session before then, so it's really interesting the where we are right now. But there was the interesting theme at the Business Agility Institute was around crisis, and ironically, it was sort of obviously all these talks had been planned and prepared before COVID. And this was the wonderful Sally Alata, and that was actually a quote at the bottom that she used for a talk, which is "Be bold, be real, and lead with your heart." And Evan and Ahmed, they actually continued to use that quote throughout the conference as more and more people panicked about the pandemic and what the new now is. But what was really, really interesting was that a lot of the talks were around, it takes crisis to obtain the right mindset to change. Celia Lata was talking about her time in Sudan and using agility as a way of solving wicked problems and assisting. And not long after Sally was on the stage, Marina Alex came on, and she was talking about working with companies and supporting organizations in Crimea during times of conflict and war. So, you really got this feel, and these talks, these business agility talks, were all about survival and how to survive, and really that nudge that you almost need a crisis before you embrace change, or, as I'm talking about today, innovate.
And it sounds like women are dealing with all of that.
I would say so. I would say
all your
so.
examples.
Yes, I'm with you. I would. You know what that was? I mean, joking aside, that was lovely. There was a lot of sessions on women in agile whilst I was there. But yeah, absolutely, lots of leaders, practitioners, leading the way. Here we go. But this was unfortunately Angel. Angel got a very nice name, but unfortunately not female. But Angel Diaz Morato, a CST in the community. Great fun, good guy. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing, but his dad passed away, and it really threw him. So he had a very much of a crisis in his life, and he too came up onto the stage and talked about a crisis. I've just noticed it's not moving. That's always fun. So let me just unshare, and it's when we're talking about pivoting and dealing with a crisis. It's always good when technology fails. So
Always.
There we go. I'm just, that's why I did that. There we go. This is Angel. And it was really interesting. What he was saying, and this is fascinating, was that you need to kind of create a crisis simulation. And he created this approach that he does with organizations, which is how you can simulate the worst case scenario in order to survive, which was really more of a kind of a proactive approach to innovation in some respects. And here, you'd be glad to know, he's actually saying agility alone might not be enough. Resilience is key. And I think that was, I think that is so true of where we are right now. And some examples of that, we've all heard the blockbuster stories. We've all heard the stories of where people haven't innovated, haven't changed, as was in chat just then, haven't understood the needs of customers to change. So the Kodak story is always quite sad, that we hear the story of Kodak that didn't manage to innovate and etc., missed the market window and such like. The Fujifilm story, does anyone know? Give me a show of hands. Anyone heard of the Fujifilm story? No. So basically, later on, what I'll be discussing is the IDEO model of desirability, the business viability, and the technical feasibility. That is in obviously the IDEO model of innovation. But what Fujifilm realized is that that they didn't need to think about, this is almost in some respects thinking about different strategies I'll be looking at later, but they identified that the antioxidant that is used for the anti-aging of photography, sorry, is the same antioxidant that can be used for skincare and for anti-aging. It's the same antioxidant. So if you go to any airport, which you probably won't for some time, but if you do go to any airport in the foreseeable future, you will probably see Astalift. Astalift. Fujifilm wouldn't probably have the right name for a facial cream, but Astalift. So they've actually created a cream based on their own, what I would say, internal capabilities. So thinking about can we build it, which I think is fascinating. So they didn't, just sort of do a nosedive. They actually innovated and disrupted their business model based on that, which I think is really, really quite fascinating. And on that note, things like this, right? It's no surprise that there's a massive increase of 7.2% in the courier and post activity between February 2020 and August 2020, right? So if we look at Amazon here, it's no surprise, but look how much money they're spending. They're not going, oh, that innovation thing, that little bit of innovation, it just happens up front. We do a little bit of that innovation thing, then we park it, then we crack on with this thing called agile. Everything's fine, right? I'm not going to bore you with looking at the amount of times that Amazon has disrupted their existing business model, but I'm telling you now, right, that I'm telling you now, just in case you ever want to go on holiday and decide how much your budget is, that is making an investment in innovation, right? That is a lot of money. And I don't know, is anyone, the two Robs on the call here will know, but Debenhams, has anyone heard of Debenhams, the retail brand, the store? Well, they are in fact 243 years old, Debenhams. They were founded in 1778. I only know that because I wanted to share that, and I've got a post-it here. There you go. But anyway, they were bought by Boohoo, an online fashion retailer, and they're only 15 years old. 15 years compared to 243. Now, as was just mentioned in chat, that is a huge change in customer behavior. Yeah. Have you gone to Boohoo, Ardi?
No,
No?
doesn't sound like a place I would go, but I should, huh?
Well, I mean, you should and you shouldn't, because Debenhams, they were worth, I think they bought Debenhams for around 55 million. But unfortunately, the sad thing is, of the 118 stores, they were more interested in the IP. I don't actually know how many of the staff they've maintained, but of the 12,000 staff, I'm hoping that some are still working, but it's incredibly sad. So there's positives and negatives in time of change. I mean, let me put that into chat as well. Could you put into chat if you've actually ordered more takeaways during the time of COVID? Has your takeaway input gone up? Yes or no?
Here in Canada, for example, we have some services that I don't know if you have, where they bring in a box everything to cook.
Yes.
Meal.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's a takeaway. I've increased on that.
Yeah. In fact, my wife was in the leisure industry. She was made redundant. She now works for a HelloFresh, which is exactly one of the companies that you're talking of.
Perfect.
And
yes.
they have extended exponentially, and there are 3, huge warehouses, where they do the stuff.
We have HelloFresh here. Yes.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. So there we go. A lot of people have bought stuff, doing stuff, and so forth. So here it comes to he says, whenever it just likes to, let's see if he's going to wake up again. It's almost like saying, let's see, hello? No. If I stop, it gets very upset. If I stop talking to my iPad, he decides that he wants to go to sleep. So we'll give him one more try. Otherwise, I'll dial in as another person. By the way, in this time of disruption, I'm using an app called I'm using an app called not using an app. Sometimes I use an app called EpoCam. I'm just AirPlay sharing. But if you ever struggle with this, just dial in as another device. I'm sure you've done that. Okay. So diversity of thought. This is a really a lovely quote from Niels. It's not flagelling. It's flailing. And in fact, he will himself say that he is just known as the sweary German because in fact he swears a lot and no one can pronounce his surname. But anyway, I was talking to Rob about this earlier. But absolutely love this. From idea to innovation takes creativity, and creativity is in the hands of your teams. They used to be, before they improved or updated the Scrum Guide, there used to be a little there used to be a quote where it said that Scrum teams created to enhance productivity and creativity. It was even used there, but not used anymore. But creativity is key to this, right? And that's what Ardita, you and me, we worked together in Portugal, right? And this was what we were trying to emphasize with the organization we were working with.
Do we have to say it? Yeah, the organization, but no, definitely this was something we wanted to start awakening in them, right?
Exactly. And I think this is it. Innovation does not happen in the ivory tower or in the innovation department. Innovation and creativity happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think this is the biggest danger because myself and Rob, who work for RadTac or now C Prime, we often get brought in and organizations self-diagnose and say, we need agile training or we need this, that, and the other. And we might say, how about innovation? And they say, oh, no. We're technology. We don't deal with innovation. Innovation happens over there.
It's a different department for that. They don't need agile.
Yes.
They're good.
So this is it. You need to enhance and bake in innovation within teams. You need to have the ability. There's some interesting threads only yesterday around what is discovery work looked upon or creativity, and it has to happen, and that has to happen within well-balanced teams. So talking about that, you may know, as Ardita mentioned, that I'm a little bit of a lover of visual thinking. And it's more than just drawing pretty pictures. It's really about the ability to embrace diversity of thought. On that note, I'll do that in a second. I'll give you, if you can grab a pen and some paper just to keep you energized. I think I might get you to do a little exercise, but it's more than this. It's all around ways in which teams can accelerate learning, enhance team collaboration, and generate ideas, solve problems, and find business alignment. And if you think about every situation when you're trying to generate ideas, solve problems, and find alignment, then visual thinking is critical, and it happens all the time. So I'm going to throw something in there. It's something I do all the time, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask you, wonderful people, to draw a picture for me. I would like you to draw a picture that represents the word agile. And I'm going to give you 1 minute. There's a reason for this, always. And I'll stop sharing for a second, then I can see all of your faces.
Sorry, Stuart. My daughter came by to give me a popsicle update. What did you want us to do?
Oh, well, popsicle update is actually very important. Let me just dial in so that they know.
Okay.
Hello. There we go. No, sorry. I'm dialing in as another device at the same time. I can't multitask.
Draw what agile is.
Draw a picture of popsicle, which would be interesting, or draw a picture for agile. Yeah. And Ardi, I tried to join. I don't know if I'm in.
You're still in. We can hear you.
As a device. I don't know if there's a waiting room. It might be there. Anyway. Maybe not. No, I must have dialed in the wrong one because it's not. Oh, I'll end that.
No, I don't see it.
Fine, that's okay. Okay, so draw away. I'll give you 30 more seconds. There we go. I've dialed in as another device, so I will not have any more issues with my technology. Okay.
Perfect.
On that note, please, can you present your pictures of Agile, please? And I'm sure they'll all be wonderful. You will, however, have to come off camera. Oh, Wayne, look at that.
I don't know.
That, Wayne, I'm sorry, Wayne. You're going to have to, Wayne, you're going to have to come off mute and tell us what on earth you're drawing. It's beautiful, but I want to know what's going on in your mind.
I have no idea, but I was thinking, okay, agile. It's got to be fast. It's got to be so. There's a little bit of lightning, and it changes direction quick. So there's some sharp angles, and it's fluid and it kind of flows. So there's a little bit of sort of flowing. I don't know if that's water or so, just sort of something. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
It looks like people intertwining as well. Lots around kind of connections. I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay.
Who else? It's really nice. Who else would like to present their picture? Let's hold it up to the camera. Who's okay? We've got Adi. You've got that one there, Ardita. Brilliant, lovely, all very nice, agile, very, very good. So the real point of this little exercise is that you have all drawn very different things, and that is because the word agile itself is an ideograph, which is a picture that represents an idea or a concept. And I find that really fascinating. So that's my way of kind of suggesting that you can embrace innovation and creativity by embracing diversity. I often think that in this world of agility, if we didn't need to embrace diversity of thought, if we didn't need to collaborate, we wouldn't need to do agile. For me, the passion here is that we get lots of different minds working together to cross that line together. I think that's the passion. And if anyone here is familiar with a gentleman called Sir Ken Robinson, who he was an amazing thought leader, and he did a wonderful talk about creativity and how education kills creativity. And he talks about
is the best TEDx talk.
It is amazing. Have you seen it? A lot of you have seen it, right? But a little talk about the girl that throws her hand in the air and says, "I'd like to draw a picture," and the teacher that says, "I don't know, what do you want to draw?" And she says, "I'm going to draw God." And the teacher looks really confused, and then and says, "We don't know what God looks like." And the little girl says, "But we will in a minute." And I think that that creativity, that beauty is wonderful. And one thing I'm amazed at, and I was just chatting to Ardita about this, is I have a 17-year-old who's had to kind of do an engineering course from home. And I'm really impressed, not by his tutors or the way they've not really assisted, but by the way him and his friends have dabbled together to cross the line, collaborated. And as Sir Ken Robinson would say, what is known in school as cheating is known as collaboration in our space. And I said to my son, "I love the way that you guys all get on WhatsApp and help each other out." He said, "Dad, that's cheating." I said, "It's not, mate. That's how the world rolls." So there we go. I'm going to.
We all have Google.
Yes. I'm now sharing. I hope you can see this. I'm now sharing via via there. There we go.
Yes.
Good. Thank you for that. That was a little opportunity to do a bit of visual thinking. So balancing discovery and delivery work. Okay. Again, into chat, please. When in a product life cycle do you innovate? You don't get anything from this, by the way. There's no virtual beer or anything. You just have to play the game. When do we innovate? Lovely.
Yeah, high five.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, absolutely. You're all connected. You all get it. You got it. You get the lingo. Absolutely. I'm not going to spend long here because with you experts, but let's just remember maybe the intent of this thing called design thinking. And I guess it's very much like waterfall in some respects of when we think of this sort of traditional business thinking, which is you know, almost like the degree of achievement. I've got a problem, you know, solve it. Or often the case, we often get told, here's a solution, you know, get there.
Yeah.
And we never invest time in understanding, in this discovery phase of understanding what that is, and the ability to open more doors by identifying more problems, which is very much embracing that empirical cycle that is the foundation of Scrum, you know, understanding and learning, as well as lean thinking, right? You know, where are the real problems? You know, this is cause and effect, right? What are the main issues? And that's the intent. And this looks dangerously like waterfall, dangerously. But the most important thing that I want to get across on this slide is that we go through stages of divergent thinking, and we do need to get levels of convergence before we define what a problem is, before we then diverge into development and converging. I don't know whether Cheesy's with us, but this would be his moment. But I was talking about this stuff at the Experience Agile conference quite a few years back, and I was talking about this sort of stuff, and he said there's a flaw to things like, you know, design thinking and design sprints. And I said, what's that? What's that? And he said, people know that they're being tested, right? You know, and really, I'm like, tell me more. And basically, it's really based on that Hawthorne effect. You know, if you're familiar with the Hawthorne effect, which is, I think it's based on a phenomenon of an experiment back in the 20s and 1920s and 30s in your neck of the woods, in slightly bigger island of the US, but in Illinois. But it is that that behavior, your behavior changes when you know you're being tested. So when we talk about innovation, it happens, as you guys have said, all the blooming time. You know, we've got this sort of discovery phase over here where, yes, I like what someone said in chat. Maybe if we're starting to create a new product rather than modify an existing product, then there's going to be a lot more innovation at the beginning. But it's not until we start doing stuff and building stuff, we're going to learn, you know, from our end users, and that's where more innovation happens. And a slide that I'll share in a little bit is around that the stuff over here is really is focusing on market research, which will drive product strategy. And this stuff over here is driving user research, which will drive user design. But both will support each other, and it's a continuous flow. What you don't want is to say, we'll do the design thinking, and then we'll pass it over to that Scrum team, right? And this is what I'm really trying to get across. So again, this is just a way in which me and Rob have conceptualized product innovation. So we've got some examples of how we've used this to kind of have these discussions, to provoke some discussion. And the word DNA, in fact, kudos to you, Rob. You came up with this, didn't you? You came up with finding that beautiful definition that sings to what we're talking about here. So there you go. The DNA, right? DNA carries genetic information. It has all the instructions that a living organism needs to grow, reproduce, and function. I like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about this stuff, the DNA, and how it kind of supports and enables the other things. This is just, you could say, I love a quote from Luke Homan, tools in your toolbox, not a checklist. You can do away with some of these things, right? Or you can use them. You can go meh, or you can go yeah, right? But these are some of the things that we think sit within the sort of DNA of your product, if you like, as a way of kind of thinking about evolutionary design. And validating product assumptions. I'll be talking a little bit more about this and this in a second. But, you know, we can't just, you know, I'm very much focused on outcomes, right? Outcomes, we want outcomes for customers. We don't get Uber on our phone because we think it's a really cool app and we can chat someone up at the bar. We buy Uber, or we get Uber on because we want to get, you know, we want to get to the airport. Or for me, who gets massive travel anxiety, I want the reassurance and the outcome that I can see that little car on its way. but we still have feature capabilities. They're still things. And as we go through the cycle of a product, our outputs and features will change dependent on the needs of our customers. But we are always delivering value, which is not just revenue, is opportunities, is risk reduction, is learning, and it sings at feasibility, viability and desirability. And obviously all those things there, those ways of working, the use of those artifacts such as a vision, and the newly mentioned product goal, which I tend to like to use as sort of a release goal, but that's me. But there's all these things that we can use that can help us to navigate that terrain and help us to think about what we should be focusing on. It's no surprise that I really think that, this is where IDEO suggests that innovation happens. But this is really where I think the heart of product management or product ownership sits. If we always talk about a product owner having the desire, passion, being having authority, having the right level of authority within an organization to be able to say the most magic words, which is no, having responsibility. I'm not going to waste time now talking about the roles and responsibilities or accountabilities, may I say, of a product owner, but the responsibility they have to maximize the work of the work of the Scrum team. But the ones we have darker is the acronym that I always use when I'm training product ownership. And they've got to have availability, but looking at the K, which is knowledge. Knowledge does not mean that they're a subject matter expert and they're a senior developer. Knowledge means they know enough about the customer, and knowledge means they know enough about the business, the return of investment, the cost of delay, the economical approach that they need to take. In this time of COVID, there are so many organizations, as we've mentioned, that have hit the wayside. It is incredibly sad. This is the most volatile, uncertain time that we have been in for decades. And so a product owner doesn't just think about the customer and the end user, but the business viability going forward. Absolute lover of the work of Roman Pichler. I think he's a true product owner storyteller. And I love the fact he did a video not long ago. No changes to what he said, just unearthing this beautiful tool that's been used for quite a few years now, and he's a real pioneer in that space. But if you look at this, what I love is that customer needs talks about desirability, right? And the outcomes. What are the motivations and the needs for your end users? Product talks about the feasibility, if you like, right? It talks about the feature capabilities, the outputs that we need to create. And this can talk about the viability, right? What do we need to do in order for the product to be viable? What I love about this is if you can't answer these very simple questions, you may as well just give up and go home. If you can't, this is stuff that we've been doing for a long time. I've been a business analyst in the past. I've created a project initiation document that no one read, that took me months. I'd much rather do something like this. And again, this is just me rattling through lots of tools and techniques that I think help you to focus on what next. So the business model canvas, undoubtedly, again, you guys have used it, but it's been around for a long time. But it's another tool that is great for what I would describe as convergence. You can embrace diversity of thought, allow people to come up with lots of ideas whilst keeping people converged and framed on that. And once again, we're looking at the same narrative. What is the feasibility, the desirability, and the viability? And the work of Alex Osterwelder is brilliant, and it's some great stuff, right?
Yeah.
You agree, yeah? And if you and the thing is, you don't have all the answers. That's fine, but as you guys have said in chat, customer needs change, and that will there provoke you to think about new value propositions and new things that you need to do.
And new business models. Yeah.
Exactly. And that brings me along. I mean, he uses the example of Hilti drills, whereby I went on one of his courses, and Hilti drills, right? Their business model was selling industrial drills. It's too industrial for me. It's too big and powerful. It would destroy me. But it's one of those drills that you'd want on site when you're getting sort of a site manager would need. But if you think about the needs of a site manager and that persona, what they really need is to ensure that the right amount of drills and equipment are in the right place at the right time. So disrupting that business model to create a fleet management system. I mean, that is pretty cool. And as you say, Adita, disrupting business models. I really like this sort of Theodore Levitt, the idea of the whole product thinking. And this is a great way to think ahead. And in Scaled Agile Framework, they talk about horizons, but it's the idea that you have this generic product. We always use a phone. A smartphone could be that generic product. The expected product being, what do you expect now? And if we mix this with Kahneman analysis, it would be like the wow factors. Today's wows are tomorrow's must-haves. You would not pick up a phone now that doesn't allow you to take a picture or do a video. Yeah. The augmented features, you could say, are the features that put, Apple ahead or Samsung ahead. And the potential are the things that are coming up next. And these are the sorts of things that keep us on edge, keep us thinking about what next. If you're only thinking about what your products do now to serve purposes, you're not going to survive in the future.
You're catching up, right?
Exactly. It's like survive. One word that I like, a term, is that survival is not mandatory. Survival is not mandatory, right? This looks nice. Here I am, hopefully injecting a bit of fun. Sharing a few tools, but in the business space, this stuff is really important, and we've got to get it right.
Yeah, we have about 13 minutes left. Just giving you a little time.
And as if these people didn't realize that I'm enthusiastic and talk fast enough anyway. Right? Okay.
We love that about you.
No worries. Well, I'll keep it going. So this is another approach, and that these are theories, so I highly recommend that you use these as a way to elicit more discussion amongst your teams. But the idea here of blue ocean strategy in why are we competing in the same marketplace when we can think about new industries? And you've got the examples. I was chatting to Rob earlier about this. The good example Rob gave was Dropbox. Dropbox was based on current existing, hardware and, using USBs. And it's almost like the first pioneering approach of cloud-based storage, right? But it was actually, I don't know if anyone knows, but it was just a video of what if you could. It was a kind of a sprint, how might we, which then provoked some thought, which then, people innovated on. The same as Wii. I mean, Nintendo Wii, they didn't use hard disks. They actually used, the whole idea of the motion control stick. It was the graphics were poorer, but they pioneered a new approach that then a lot of people copied, and that the cost and manufacturing of Wii was a lot cheaper, but it opened up a new door. And so, if you look at this, it's actually quite old, the business model canvas. It talks about Swass watches, and it talks about how the Swass watch that popped off was quite innovative. So lots of things there that you can think of. Again, I'll probably keep us moving, but please continue to share in chat and share amongst yourselves. Please do look at that as a good information radiator of the other tools and techniques that you might use or make use of that you think would be that DNA that would really help to drive innovation. Coming up to the last bit, it's talking about that kind of evolutionary approach and that constant desire to validate product assumptions. The tools and techniques that we use, once again, feel free to add this into chat. Let's have a little look there. Sorry, yeah. Great. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Anything that you can think of, tools and techniques that we use. I'm just going to shout out on a few. I've mentioned this before. This is actually some of the work of Luke Homan, but I can't emphasize enough that when we think about tools and techniques to innovate, that's that loop that I was talking about. Market research will drive product strategy. User research will drive product design. It's a continuous. Once again, a little shout out to Roman Pichler for his work in this blog article. We talk about our visions and we talk about our roadmaps and where we're going, but the path to a vision is a strategy. And if we think about a strategic approach, and it's a really great article from Roman, he talks about the fact that we've got this product strategy triangle that will continuously change, right? And we think about different changing market and user needs and different needs and the risks to the business. That will then help you preempt what features to create. So we're really thinking about that. That triangle is really helping us to innovate throughout the fruition of a product lifecycle. And just a quick look at just some of the tools and techniques that I use in these places. But once again, don't just assume that you have to use them here. Use them all the time. You've been done to death, but the good old persona, right? Here's our persona template. Others are available. If you've created a persona, of course, it needs to be updated. A lot of the time people say to me, we used personas, but they've gone stale. If your product's evolving, so do your personas need to evolve. And they don't just live here. Remember what I was saying, personas change, new personas come up. So use your personas as a way of identifying that you still have product market fit. What are their needs? Have you got new customer segment groups? Have you got new markets? Really focus on that sort of stuff. And again, a lovely tool to test and question. Brilliant. To test and question the sorts of stuff that you've got is probably one of the first tools that I would do after this talk. If you were trying to see whether you're still fit for purpose as a product, you know your products and services. Write that down, start here and start thinking about the jobs that your customers need to get done, right? The jobs to be done. And then identify the gains and pains that would happen for doing or not doing those things. Then you can start identifying within your services and products, whether you have product market fit. Absolutely love the definition, by the way, of a product, which is a vehicle to deliver value. So your products and services are merely vehicles to deliver value to your customers. So they think past technology. I've mentioned How Might We's. If you haven't already got this book, come on, move over. There we go. Ooh. Design sprints. Absolutely. Me and Ardita did actually use this approach in Portugal. But if you do any type of ethnographic research, or you're looking at service blueprinting, or you're doing some systems thinking or systems mapping, and you're looking at the whole, get some How Might We's going on, because they provoke ideas. They don't give you a solution, they give you an idea of what could happen. The art of the impossible, the art of the possible. So I really do suggest looking at How Might We's is a great tool. And when we look at the other side, absolutely love. You'll be glad to know Ardita, Arduti2. Two more tools.
Just don't swear.
I won't swear. Customer journey mapping is, I've done quite a few talks on this. It's probably one of my most passionate tools as a visual thinker. If you've ever done customer journey mapping, by default, it allows you to see a true cross business unit view. So not only do you think in silo, but it forces everyone to think about the true value to an end user, which is really key here. But it also allows you to think about what lies beneath. So if you ever have done service blueprinting, it's very much like that. Map the customer journey, the current customer journey of your customers, beneath the surface. Start to plot where those systems are, where those services are, where those teams sit. I did this with Adi in Portugal, and we identified lots of blockers underneath the surface, feasibility and viability blockers. the new things that we should be focusing on weren't new experiences for our customers, but lay beneath the surface. Ardy's much cleverer than me. She went on to talk about Wardley mapping. It was pretty awesome. But all these tools, right? Use them how you wish. And you look, right, I'm passionate about visual storytelling. That's my journey to Agile, as a story that I did for Agile World group not long ago. But if you can use a little bit of visual thinking as an overlay to all this stuff, brilliant. You know, map your customers' experiences to really gain levels of empathy. And the final thing is you know, there's tools that you can use that are more commonly seen in the design thinking or agile world. Impact mapping from Goiko Adzik is just another reminder that we might say users this, users that. We might do user story creation, user story mapping. But how much do we really know of our users? And in fact, let the users lead what we should do. So based on our customer behaviors, let's then consider what next. And that is the most powerful way to innovate. And I think at that stage, after nearly an hour, for my sake and everyone else, I can take a great big breath, pause, and say, thank you very much.
Thank you. How about questions?
We haven't got time to listen to anyone else. I was joking about diversity of thought. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's questions. I will stop sharing so we can see everyone's faces. Thank you.
I've got one question for you, Stuart.
Great.
So what would you say for a company who feels they already have all their products pretty well figured out and they don't really need to innovate too much? It's just more of delivering the same thing.
That's a good question, right? And I think that sort of feeds through this whole talk. I would say to those people, great, good opinion. But let's just see, right? You know, let's see. I mean, you could say to them, find out. Let's actually, the proof's in the pudding. Let's run an experiment and see where our organization is in 10 years' time, or listen to me and start to innovate and think about the future. And I guess there is no silver bullet. So I don't think you can always, use your organization and look at others, but you can see other organizations and that are leading by example. I would often find organizations that are similar in their makeup, in their culture, and try to identify where they are using continuous innovation or investing in innovation as a way of sort of probing. And in fact, that's really good ethnographic research, right? Competitor analysis. What are they doing that you're not? That's what I would probably say to that.
An induced crisis. How about that? Induce some crisis.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
back to the original conversations, that in the crisis, you do become innovative. You force yourself to think differently.
I think the other problem. Go on,
Sorry,
Mike.
that was an interesting point. A crisis, like nobody wants COVID. It was forced on us. We had to respond to it. And it's interesting to see how companies responded. But you mentioned about simulating a crisis to see. How would you go about doing that without really, disrupting everything you want to experiment with it?
I think if you think about the worst case scenarios, and I know that Ron Jeffries would say risk is the water that agile fish swim. So we embrace risk, but if you think about the worst case scenarios and you play those stories out of within your organization and really try to kind of innovate on those worst case scenarios, you can then consider what you would do in those situations. So think ahead, think of a world where you've got all those new competitors, and that's very much that sort of red ocean strategy. But what would you need to do to survive? And that's the simulation. How would your organization survive given this simulation?
Emergency services do it all the time. They create scenarios and work out how they can tackle them in better ways, with less people and with new technologies. And it's the same thinking, isn't it? Let's put a scenario in front of us and see how we tackle it.
Yeah, I like the military red team, blue team thing. Yeah. So okay, yeah, good ideas.
Yeah, I was thinking of what Rob was saying there. I was thinking about when we think about the worst case scenario of a bomb or something, or a terrorist attack, and how you would simulate that, and trying to understand the best ways to deal.
Gonna have to drop off, but thank you very much, guys. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for interacting and being connected. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions before? I know we are sort of at time, but we do have time for questions. If any.
Somehow I stuck on this divergence and convergence picture.
Okay.
Because in big organizations, I'm just thinking who are parties in this process. I just recommended my friend as developer to our organization. He passed a technical interview. He went to manager, and manager asked, "What are you going to do if your opinion differs to mine?" So there is just no second step, no convergence. And it's always we have orders, you should do it.
And this is the difference between doing and being agile, right? I can just feel your pain. I think the difference is if you don't allow, if teams don't have the ability to fail fast, to learn fast, and the ability to be autonomous and make decisions, there's no point. Throw away your roles and your Kanban boards and your post-its. None of that matters, or your repository for your, it's all about providing that level of trust. And that's very much what Neil's flailing was saying. So it's sad to hear that.
It's exactly right. You're here to do your work, which we tell you to do. So there is no autonomy. I wish this presentation was presented to my managers.
I think it's been recorded, so feel free to email it.
I couldn't invite you to organize some event on site.
Why not? Get in touch. Why not? I'll bring Rob along. He can do more talking.
Yeah, we are the biggest and most important organization in the financial organization in the world.
Yeah, more than happy. We'd be delighted to come and to share the love. Absolutely.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, thanks, Ilya. I see that you probably too can connect after. I see that some people are leaving, so thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for being here. Stuart, this is fantastic. You know what? I had forgotten about some things. You have a lot of things, but then you forget to use them. They kind of get dusty. So you just reminded me to polish some of them and bring them with what I'm doing right now. So thank you for that. For me, I really enjoyed this. This was really good. And hey, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your experience, and lovely to have you here.
Lovely to see you. Hopefully next time face to face. Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.